now finished examining the assumption that an effect is already real in a cause or that a cause includes an effect and produces it. In the following paragraphs, he discusses the assumption that an effect is at the outset unreal in a cause or that a cause does not include an effect and produce it. He presents several arguments to refute the assumption. Now assume that a cause does not have an effect included in it and produces the effect. This is not tenable either. Why? If something is produced from nothing, then a second head and a third hand should be produced. Why? Because something could be produced from nothing. Question: things such as a jar have causal conditions, and hence can be produced. But a second head and a third hand do not have causal conditions, so how can they be produced? Therefore, what you say is not right.
Answer: a second head, a third hand, a jar and other effects are all not real in their causes. For example, there is no jar in clay and there is no jar in stone. Why do we call clay, not stone, the cause of a jar? Why do we call milk the cause of cheese, and call yarn, not grass, the cause of a rug? Again, if a cause does not have an effect included in it and yet produces the effect, then anything can produce anything else. A finger should also produce carts, horses, food and other things. Similarly, yarn should produce not only rugs, but also carts, horses, and food. Why? If something can be produced from nothing, why does yarn produce only rugs, but not carts, horses, food and other unrelated things, since none of them is real in the cause? If the cause does not include the effect and yet produces it, then the cause should not have a certain distinct and particular power to produce a certain, distinct and particular, effect. Usually, if we want oil, we get it from sesame, not from sand. But if they have no relation to one another, why do we get oil from sesame and not from sand?
Perhaps you would say that we have been sesame produce oil, but have never seen sand produce it. Therefore, we seek oil from sesame, not from sand. But this is not tenable. Why? If the mark of production is established, then one can say that since we have seen sesame produce oil but have never seen sand produce oil, we seek oil from sesame but not from sand. However, the mark of production has not been established, and hence one cannot legitimately claim that since we have seen sesame produce oil, we seek oil from sesame, not from sand. Again, what I am doing now is not only refuting one instance of causation, but all causes and effects. That a cause has an effect included in it and produces it, that a cause does not have an effect included in it and produces it, and that a cause both has and does not have an effect included in it and produces it, cannot be established. Your example, that you have seen sesame produce oil, is based on the very idea of causation which is yet to be established.
Comment: Nagarjuna points out that the observation of the constant conjunction of certain events in the past does not guarantee that similar events will produce similar effects unless we assume the principle of causality, the very principle which we want to prove. He examines not a particular causal law in a particular instance, but the very idea of causation, to show that the universal principle of causality cannot be justified on empirical grounds. Again, if a cause does not have an effect included in it and yet produces the effect, the characteristic of cause cannot be established. Why? If a cause has nothing included in it, how can it make anything? How can it produce or achieve? If there is no making and no producing, how can it be called a cause? Thus, really, a maker cannot make anything and what is made cannot make anything either. If a cause has an effect included in it, then there should be no distinction between making, a maker and that which is made. For if the effect is already real, why should it be made again? So you may say that since making, a maker, that which is made and other causes cannot be established, I have to accept the thesis that a cause does not have an effect included in it. However, this is not necessarily true. Why? If one accepts the distinction between making and a maker and the reality of causality, he has to accept your charge. But I say that making, a maker and causality are all empty. Furthermore, your refutation of making, a maker and causality verifies my position, and should not be called against me. Thus I still maintain that the thesis, that a cause does not include an effect and then produces the effect, is untenable. Again, if someone accepts that a cause includes an effect, your charge is a charge against him. But I do not say that a cause has an effect included in it, hence I do not have to accept your charge, and also I do not have to accept the thesis that a cause does not have an effect included in it.
Comment: Nagarjuna stresses that he does not hold any view, and that the denial of affirmation does not entail the assertion of negation. When he denies that a cause includes an effect, he does not necessarily assert that a cause does not include an effect. He also points out that the opponent's hypothetical charge verifies his position. For the opponent at this point of the argument will grant that it is untenable that cause includes an effect and then produces it. That has been Nagarjuna's intent in the first half of the chapter. Nagarjuna has finished the examination of the second possible view of causal relation. In the following paragraphs, he discusses the third possible view, namely, that a cause both includes and excludes an effect and then produces the effect. He also wants to refute this view. It is also untenable that a cause can both include and exclude an effect and then produce the effect. Why? Because including and excluding are contradictory in nature. How can things which are contradictory in nature be together? Just as brightness and darkness, suffering and pleasure, going and staying, binding and loosening cannot be together, so a cause which both includes and excludes an effect cannot produce. Again, a cause which both includes and excludes an effect has been refuted previously when we examined including and excluding cases individually.
Therefore, if a cause has an effect included in it, there is no production. If a cause does not have an effect included in it, there is no production either. This is also true of a cause that both includes and excludes an effect. Reasoning can go no further. We have examined all aspects and cannot find production. Therefore, the effect is ultimately not produced. Since the effect is ultimately not produced, all created things are empty. Why? Because all created things are causes and effects. Since created things are empty, non-created things are also empty. Since even created and non-created things are empty, is it not more so with the thief?